We are back with part 3 of this week's reading of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life version. And we are reading this week Numbers chapter 13 to 24. And we are about to go into chapter 17, Sprouting of Aaron's Rod. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Benaiah Israel, and get a rod from each ancestral house, 12 staffs in all, from each prince according to his ancestral house. Write each man's name on his staff. Write Aaron's name on Levi's staff, for there is to be one staff for the prince of each tribe. Then you are to place them in the tent of meeting before the testimony where I meet with you. It will come about that the staff of the man I choose will sprout. This is Aaron's budded staff or rod, the budding rod. I will then rid myself of the grumblings of Benaiah Israel who are grumbling against you. So Moses spoke to Benaiah Israel. Each of their princes gave him a staff, one staff for each prince according to their ancestral houses, 12 staffs in all, and Aaron's staff was among them. Moses placed the staffs before Adonai in the tent of testimony. The next day Moses entered the tent of testimony, and behold, Aaron's staff from the house of Levi had sprouted, blossomed, and produced almonds. Moses then brought all of the staffs from Adonai's presence to all Benaiah Israel. They looked, and each man took his staff, and Adonai said to Moses, Put Aaron's staff back in front of the testimony to keep as a sign to the sons of rebellion, so that it may put an end to their grumblings against me, and so they will not die. Moses did just as Adonai commanded him. But Benaiah Israel said to Moses, saying, Look, we will die. We are all lost. We are lost. Anyone approaching the tabernacle of Adonai will die. Must all of us die? So that was the end of chapter 17. So God was basically showing them that, he did choose Aaron, and his rod is the one that budded, and it was to be for a reminder, and that was kept in the Ark of the Covenant. It was one of the things that was placed in the Ark of the Covenant, along with the Ten Commandments and the jar of manna. So now we move on to chapter 18, Kohen duties and portions. Adonai said to Aaron, You, your sons, and the house of your father with you will bear the guilt for the sanctuary, and you and your sons will bear the guilt for your priesthood. Bring with you your brothers in the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, so that they may join you and assist you, both you and your sons with you, before the tent of the testimony. They are to perform their duties for you and for all matters related to the tent. They must not approach the implements of the sanctuary or the altar, otherwise both you and they will die. They are to team with you and attend to the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, but no unauthorized person may intrude upon you. So you are to attend to the sanctuary and the care of the altar, so no further wrath will fall on Benaiah Israel. See, I have personally taken your kinsmen, the Levites, from among Benaiah Israel as a gift for you and your sons with you, dedicated to Adonai to serve in the work of the tent of the meeting. But you and your sons with you are to maintain your priesthood for everything pertaining to the altar and inside the parachet. I am giving you the ministry of the priesthood as a gift. Anyone unauthorized who approaches will die. Now, parachet, remember, this is the dividing curtain in the temple for the Holy of Holies. Adonai then said to Aaron, See, I have given you charge over all of my offerings. All the sacred things from Benaiah Israel I have given to you as set aside for you and your sons as a permanent share. You are to have the part of the most holy things that is kept from the fire, whether grain, sin, or guilt offerings that they may bring to me as most holy. They are for you and your sons. You are to eat it as most holy. Every male may eat it. It is set apart for you. This is also yours, the gift of the wave offerings of Benaiah Israel. I have given all the wave offerings as a permanent share to you, your sons, and your daughters. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. All the finest olive oil, the finest new wine and grain they give to Adonai from their first fruits. I have given them to you. All the first fruits of the land that they bring to Adonai will be for yours. Anyone who is clean in your house may eat it. Every devoted thing in Israel is yours. The first offspring of the womb from all flesh, whether human or animal, offered to Adonai is yours. However, you are to redeem the firstborn of man and the firstborn of unclean animals. When they are a month old, you are to redeem them at the redemption price of 5 shekels of silver by the sanctuary shekel, or 20 gerahs. But the firstborn of the ox, sheep, or goats you are not to redeem. They are holy. You are to sprinkle their blood on the altar, and their fat you are to burn as a fire offering, a pleasing aroma to Adonai. Their meat, the breast of the wave offering, and the right thigh is yours. Whatever is set aside from the holy offerings which Bnei Israel present to Adonai, I have given to you, your sons and your daughters, with you as a permanent share. It is an everlasting covenant of salt before Adonai for you and your offspring. Adonai said to Aaron, you will have no inheritance in their land, nor share among them. I am your portion and your share among Bnei Israel. See, I have given all the tithes in Israel to the sons of Levi as an inheritance in return for all the work of the service they are doing in the tent of meeting. From now on, Bnei Israel must never trespass the tent of meeting, or they will bear the consequences of their sin and die. The Levites will perform the service of the tent of meeting. They will bear the responsibility for their iniquity. It is a permanent ordinance throughout your generation. So among Bnei Israel, they are to receive no inheritance. For I have given the tithes that Bnei Israel present to Adonai as an offering to the Levites as an inheritance. That is why I said they would receive no inheritance among Bnei Israel. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, speak now to the Levites and say to them, when you receive from Bnei Israel the tithe, which I have given to you as an inheritance, you are then to offer to Adonai a tithe of that tithe. So they need a tithe to Adonai. In other words, your offering will be reckoned as grain from the threshing floor or the fullness of the winepress. Thus you will also present an offering to Adonai from your tithes that you receive from Bnei Israel, and from that you are to give Adonai's portion to Aaron the Kohen. From all your gifts that you receive, you are to present the best and holiest from them as Adonai's portion. Say to them, when you present the best part, it will be reckoned to the Levites as the produce of the threshing floor and of the winepress. You and your household may eat it in any place. It is your wage for your service in the tent of meeting. In presenting the best part in this manner, you will bear no guilt in these matters. You will not defile the holy things of Bnei Israel, so you will not die. So they were given that. That's their portion. That's actually their inheritance. They are not getting any land like the rest of Bnei Israel, but they're getting a tenth. They're getting offerings for taking care of this, the tent of meeting, the sanctuary, the Ark of the Covenant. So that is what is discussed here in chapter 18. Chapter 19, Parashat Chukat, Chukat, the red heifer and cleansing water. Now we're hearing a lot more about the red heifer as they're talking about the third temple. So some of these things that we're reading about now should be familiar because they've been in the news over the past several years. We're talking about some of this stuff. So we're gonna read about the red heifer right now. Adonai spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "This is the statute of the Torah which Adonai commanded, saying, Speak to Bnei Israel that they bring to you a flawless red heifer on which there is no blemish and on which has never been a yoke. Give her to Eleazar the Kohen. He will take her outside the camp and slaughter her in his presence, and Eleazar the Kohen is to take some of the blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tent of meeting. While watching, he is to burn the heifer, her hide, flesh, blood, and refuse. The Kohen is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool and cast them into the midst of the burning heifer. Afterward the Kohen is to wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in the water, and afterward he may come back into the camp. Still the Kohen will be unclean until evening. Also the one burning is it is to wash his clothes and bathe his flesh with the water, and he will be unclean until evening. A clean man is to gather up the ashes of the heifer and put them in a clean place outside the camp. They are to be for the community of Bnei Israel to use as water of purification from sin. The one who gathers the heifer's ashes is to also wash his clothes as well as be unclean until evening. It will be a permanent statute for Benaiah Israel and for the outsider living among them. Whoever touches any dead body will be unclean for 7 days. He is to purify himself on the third day, and on the seventh day, then he will be clean. But if he does not purify himself on the third and seventh days, he will not be clean. Anyone touching the dead body of any man who does not purify himself defiles Adonai's tabernacle, and that person will be cut off from Israel. Because the cleansing water was not sprinkled on him, he is unclean, and his uncleanness will remain on him. This is the Torah for whenever a person dies in a tent. Anyone entering the tent or anyone inside the tent will be unclean 7 days. Any open container not having a lid fastened on it will also be unclean. Anyone out in the open field who touches a dead body, whether killed by a sword or was killed by a natural cause, or touches a human bone or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days. For the unclean one, they are to take some of the ash of the burnt purification offering and pour some fresh water into a jar. Then a clean person will take some hyssop, dip it into the water, and sprinkle it on the tent, all the furnishings and the people who were there, as well as the one touching the bone, the one killed, the corpse, or the grave. The clean person will sprinkle the unclean one on the third and seventh days. He is to purify himself on the seventh day, and on the seventh day he is to wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and at evening he will be clean. However, that man who is unclean but does not purify himself will be cut off from the community. He has defiled the sanctuary of Adonai, since the cleansing water was not sprinkled on him. He is unclean. This will be a permanent ordinance for them. The one sprinkling the cleansing water is also to wash his clothes, and anyone touching the cleansing water will be unclean until evening. Anything touched by an unclean person becomes unclean, and anyone touching it will be unclean until evening. So this is the purification, and a lot of what he's doing is helping to establish cleanliness, um, and also, to help not spread disease. Sometimes, somebody might have died of something, some illness, and if you touch them and you're not, he's kind of quarantining people within that 7 days, keeping an eye on that this person doesn't get sick, maybe as well, plus cleansing themselves, cleansing from the dead. So there's a reason why the Lord has made a lot of the rules that He did for Benaiah Israel. So we're going to move on to see another miracle. Again, we're going to see water from the rock, in chapter 20. And there's a few things that are going to happen in chapter 20. Edom denies passage to the Benaiah Israel, and they're the cousins. Remember Esau. These are the descendants. Aaron is gathered to his people. This is where Aaron passes away in chapter 20. Water from the rock. In the first month, the entire community of Benaiah Israel arrived at the wilderness of Zin. The people stayed at Kadesh. There, Miriam died and was buried. So now Miriam has died at the first part of chapter 20. Now there was no water for the community, so they assembled against Moses and Aaron. The people quarreled with Moses, saying, "If only we had died when our brothers died before Adonai. Now why have you brought the community of Adonai into this wilderness for us and our livestock to die here? Why have you brought us from Egypt to bring us to this evil place, a place without grain, fig, grapevine, or pomegranate, and there's no water to drink. So here they are grumbling and mumbling and complaining again. So Moses and Aaron went from before the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell on their faces. Then the glory of Adonai appeared to them. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Take the staff and gather the assembly. You and your brother Aaron speak to the rock." This is important to hear what Adonai says to them. Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will give out its water. You will bring out water from the rock, and you will give the community something to drink along with their livestock. So Moses took the staff from before the presence of Adonai, just as he had commanded him. Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly in front of the rock and said, "Listen now, you rebels. Must we bring you water from this rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out in the community, and its livestock drank. But Adonai said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust in me so as to esteem me as holy in the eyes of Bani Israel, therefore will you not bring this assembly into the land that I have given to them. These are the waters of Meribah, where Bani Israel contended with Moses and where Adonai showed himself holy among them." So what happened here is, remember, I said it twice. Um, Adonai said to Moses and Aaron, "Speak to the rock." He didn't say strike the rock. He was showing them wanted to show the B'nai Israel his power and his might by Moses just speaking to the rock, and would give water. But Moses went ahead and struck the rock. So now Adonai is saying to Moses, you guys are not going to see the promised land either, um, because you did not trust me enough to do what I was going to do. So that is the first part of chapter 20. So we had a lot happen just there in that little segment. The next segment is about Edom. So Edom denies passage. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. "Thus says your brother Israel, you know all the hardship that came on us. Our forefathers went down from Egypt, so we lived there for a very long time. The Egyptians mistreated us and our fathers, but we cried out to Adonai. He heard our cry, sent an angel, and brought us out of Egypt. See now, we are at Kadesh, a town on the frontier of your territory. Permit us to pass through your territory. We will not cross through any field or vineyard or drink water of any well, but we will travel on the king's highway. We will not deviate to the right or the left until we have passed through your territory." But Edom said to him, "You may not pass through me, or I will march out against you with the sword." Benaiah Israel then said to him, "We will travel on the main road, and if we or our livestock even drink any of your water, we will pay its price. It's nothing just to pass through on foot." He answered, "You may not pass through." Yet Edom came out to oppose them with a large and well-armed people. Since Edom refused to permit Israel to cross through her territory, Israel turned away from them. So that is the end of that section of chapter 20. I'm going to pause this now and come back with another part.